fact, when we were moving into our house, and my wife can verify this, when we were moving into our house, we had to move before the 1st of May because my mother said, if you don't move before the 1st, if you have to move in May, you bring the fairies in with you. She believed this. She believed this. And like my older brother always took crusts of bread in the woods when he was passing the fairy hills. You've heard this folklore, haven't you? And a bit of salt in your pocket and a little bit of change and turn your coat inside out and all that sort of thing. Well, this is not serious. This is poking just a little bit of fun at fairies and what fairies do. I hope I got it off because it's a recent one. And I call it You Must Believe in Fairies. This is all about my friend A.B. Dutton, who didn't believe in fairies. Okay? The fairies came from Ireland, and that's where they should have stayed, instead of coming over here and making us all afraid. Stealing sweet little innocent babes and leading folks astray, keeping them mesmerized in the woods and keeping them there all day. Ah yes, they've done all that, and lots more mischief too. The books are full of their horrid deeds, proven tales and true. Like hiding tools and stealing things and switching animals in the stalls and frightening people in the dark of night with their eerie banshee calls. Ah, you don't believe in fairies. They're just stories, Irish tales, brought over here in the days gone by, in the time of ships with sails. A.B. Dutton thought like that before he saw the light, before he ran afoul of a fairy ring one dark September night. A.B. had never taken a crust of bread when he'd go to cut his wood, and he'd trample every fairy cap and toadstool that he could. When he'd hear of a jack-o'-lantern being rolled across the bog, he'd laugh, my son, till his shoulders shook. Sure, there's only a bit of fog. One night he left the card game, when the folk were all town were all abed, to wend his way through the fairy marsh, what most folks did with dread. The people from around the table called, "Turn your jacket inside out." "Yes, and be a bloody fool like ye," was all that he could shout. Now, the fairy marsh, as most folks knew, had fairies everywhere. Little ones and big ones and old ones with no hair. There were fairy paths and fairy lanes and big fairy caps to boot, and people avoided the fairy marsh to find a safer route. Not so A.B. Dutton. A.B. would barge right through. He had no fear of the fairies, sir, something he later rue. He barged right through a fairy dance that dark September night, barged right through like the roaring lion, kicking fairies left and right. Well, the fairies got as mad as hops and gnashed their teeth with spite, and with one voice they howled a curse that he'd do nothing right. So from that day on, whatever he'd do, they were there to turn it round, whether it was in the woods or in the garden or on the fishing ground. A.B. didn't hear the curse, just a murmuring in the trees, but he wondered why his cap flew off, though there wasn't the slightest breeze. Then just like that he got mesmerized and began to walk about, and it took him hours to walk the marsh, though he knew it inside out. The next day he went fishing, squidding actually, in his father's brand new boat. But every squid, like in the song, squirted down his throat. Well, he cursed and swore, and he danced and he raved, and he grabbed the oars to row, but the squids all stuck their tentacles on and wouldn't let him go. He went off to the brandy gulch where he'd set a bit of trawl, and hauled in the boys and took in the line and got all set to haul. He tugged and strained with all his might, and I'm telling you, sir, the truth, on every hook where he had the bait was a big black rubber boot. He left his trawl to go back in, so mad his face was red, but a bunch of gulls followed in his wake, dropping Caitlin on his head. He got at the wharf, moored the boat and went to step ashore, but he couldn't climb because the water was low and the tide kept going lower. He picked up the accordion to play a little tune, to ease his nerves and keep his day from going straight to ruin. But as the notes flew through the air, harsh and sharp and loose, the garden gate got trampled down and the yard filled up with moose. He laid down the accordion to sing a little song with a flock of crows pitched on the roof and cawed the whole night long. He joined the boys in a lancer's eight, praying there'd be no more, but every note the fiddler played, his feet stuck to the floor. And so he went, day after day. Misfortune filled his life, tripping up and falling down, woes and ills and strife, until one day he realised how he made the fairies mad. So off he went to the fairy hills with every crust of bread he had. He spread the crust on the fairy hills and between the fairy caps, and left one great big loaf on a rock on a rise called Murner's Naps. Sorry. Well, just like that, the fairies became Avi's best of friends. When he saw Avi's change of heart and he's trying hard to make amends, they removed the curse and all the woes and all the ills and strife, and from that day on, Avi lived a rich and happy life.